is it that you do? Just so we can just warm this up a little bit and get to know one another. So let's put in the chat your name, where you're logging in from, and what you do. What you do. So we'll take a few. I know it's quiet because we are all very seriously typing away. So let me put it in the chat so that we are clear what it is we are doing. Your name, where you are logging in from, and what you do. Those three. Okay. So my name is Caroline Chakua. I am logging in from Nairobi, Kenya, to be specific, in Parklands area. And I am currently the chair of Positive Psychology Association of Kenya. And I'm really, really honored to be here and to learn from Dr. Pam and from everybody else. So I am also a therapist. I practice as a therapist and a parent coach, and I'm happy to be here. Mary Mavisi is from Mihango, Nairobi, Kenya, HR practitioner, life coach, and therapist. Okay, wow, that's such a powerful combination to have. It's very people-centered. Karibu, Mary. Others, James Okinyo from Don Bosco Embu, an educator and character coach. Karibu, James. Which level have you done, James? Have you done all the three? We have CCT3 coming up. Edith Miano is glad to be here, listening in from Kilifi, Kenya, psychologist at Pwani University. Thank you, Edith. Susan Gathu from Nakuru, an educator and guidance and counseling as well. So you're in guidance and counseling. Welcome, Susan. So we have Nairobi, we have Embu, we have Kilifi, we have Nakuru. If we were to use the provinces, they are quite well represented already. The regions are quite well represented. Let's see some more, couple more. Vivian from Nairobi, Kenya, HR consultant, workplace mediator, and also a member of PPAK, currently serving as a board member, treasurer, where the money is. Welcome, Vivian. Glad to have you here. Evelyn is joining in from Bern, Switzerland. I hope I said it right, Bern, Switzerland. Welcome, Evelyn. I believe you are speaking in one of our webinars. Looking forward to hearing you. All right. The rest of us, are we driving? Are we cooking? Are we shopping? Are we walking home? Good to see you, Monica.
I can't hear you very well, so I have to join with my laptop.
Okay, is it me? Can you hear me? The rest of you, I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's from my end. Can someone just confirm if you can hear me clearly? Okay, Wangari from PAK says she can hear me. All right. Okay. Okay, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Frank. Asanteni sana. Can we have two more introducing themselves, and then now we get into the presentation. Jamie Ogwang on the road from Machakos County. You can hear me. Thank you, Jamie, and safe travels. Travel safe. And thank you for logging in, even as you are on the road. One more.
Yeah.
Monica?
So I have to leave here, from here.
Can you hear me, Monica?
Yes, I can now.
Wonderful. Would you like to introduce yourself now that you are unmuted?
Now I've changed.
All right. I think we lost Monica. All right. Thank you, Nancy. Getting home shortly. Get home well and safe. I think we can now proceed, but you can just keep putting in the chat, introducing yourselves and letting us know where you're logging in from and in what capacity you're here. What do you do? So karibuni again to the Positive Psychology Association of Kenya webinars. We have webinars every last Saturday of the month. Every last Wednesday. I think it's the fourth Wednesday of the month. And so we definitely have another one coming up on 23rd of April. The very same link that you used is the same link you will use for the entire year. So if you have it, just keep it and just remember it's every fourth Saturday, but every fourth Wednesday, but also know that we do send information for you to join in every month. So again, thank you all of you for being here. Welcome. And as is my usual practice, I would just like us to take a moment to do a mindfulness exercise, even as we look forward to hearing from Pam Miano, who's logging in from, I believe, Germany. All right, so let's just take a moment and deep breathe in and out. And out. You can keep your eyes open if you don't mind. Just pay attention to 5 things that you can see and connect with them as you breathe in and out. 5 things you can see and you can connect with. As you take a deeper breath in and out, pay attention to 4 things you can feel or touch. 4, meaning where your feet are, where you sit, where you're seated, where your back is rested, all those. Where your hands are, whatever you can feel. Just pay attention to at least 4 things as you breathe in and out. And then see if you can identify 3 distinct sounds. Maybe as you breathe in deeply and out, pay attention to the farthest sound. And then one that is not so far. And finally, a sound that is really close by. Could even be your own breathing or the fan on your laptop. And then as you breathe in and out, pay attention to 2 distinct smells. Just breathe deeply in and out. Can you identify 2 distinct smells? And finally, you just roll your tongue in your mouth and figure out if you can taste something. Aside from your spit, is there another taste that you can identify in your mouth? So once again, thank you. Breathe in and out. And allow me to welcome Pam Miano. And as I do that, let me read her bio. All right. So Pamela Miano is a Kenyan psychologist and academic, currently pursuing a PhD at the Okay, just kindly look out for unmuted devices. So Pamela Miano is a Kenyan psychologist and academic, currently pursuing a PhD at the Carl von Ossietzky. And I'm sure I didn't say it right, but I think you can start off by telling us how that's pronounced. University of Oldenburg, Germany. Her research focuses on the effects of positive psychology interventions on the well-being of first-year Kenyan university students, employing a mixed methods approach. That's going to be interesting. We're always looking out for more and more data and evidence around positive psychology interventions, and especially local. So really looking forward to how that research will pan out. Prior to her doctoral studies, Ms. Miano served as a tutorial fellow in psychology at Pwani University in Kenya, where she also lectured part-time. She has experience as a volunteer student counselor at Dedan Kimathi University of Technology and has interned as a counseling psychologist at Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. So without further ado, karibu sana Pam. Really looking forward to this evening. And let's cheer her on as she goes. Let's keep this interactive and engaging. Karibu sana Pam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carol. I hope I am audible. Perfect.
You're audible, yes.
And thank you everyone for joining in and for your time. I am deeply honored to be here. And before further ado, let me share my slides. Okay, perfect. Great. So I am deeply grateful for the invite to engage with you all in this month's webinar. And I thank you for your willingness to be here today. Witnessing the growth of PPAK has been so inspiring and exciting for me. Very, very exciting. Let me just stop this share just to confirm I am sharing the right one, just for a second. Sorry about that. Once, okay. Okay, yes, it is this one. Yes, so yes, witnessing the growth of PPAK has been very inspiring for me, and I was a wide-eyed and excited attendee when the association was launched back in 2020, and I can't believe it's been 5 years now. But before I go much further, a little bit about me. So as Dr. Carol said, my background is in counseling psychology, and that is where I came to learn about positive psychology. Naturally, I was intrigued by this field, as I'm sure many of you are, and I wanted to focus my research on positive psychological interventions to improve well-being. So, for instance, during my master's, it was mainly focused on improving the well-being of students seeking student counseling services. and currently it's now on first-year university students. And today's webinar will be focusing on cultivating positive relationships. And I would say that my interest in this was sparked by previous experiences of implementing positive psychological interventions with the youth, as well as my time in mentoring and training peer counselors as well at the universities where I was situated. So in these experiences, there would be concerns about building and deepening positive relationships. Maybe it's because we tend to deeply value relationships, and we'll get to that in a bit. So relationships are diverse. We know they range from intimate, close relationships with family and friends to relationships within the workplace or within our communities. But unfortunately, it's such a broad topic, it would be difficult to unpack everything within this just one webinar, all the different aspects and dynamics of relationships. Therefore, for today's session, we will focus on, the importance of positive relationships, the prevalence of loneliness, obstacles to cultivating positive relationships, where can we begin, deepening our relationships, and yes. So firstly, let's talk about the importance of relationships. Okay, I hope you're still with me. Great.
Yes.
So, perfect.
Yes, we are.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Yes, so the importance of positive relationships. To flourish, we need social connections, and we hear it a lot, perhaps through maybe the often quoted "no man is an island" saying. Our lives are very intertwined, and there is interdependence between us as human beings. Positive relationships are linked to a feeling of support, care, belonging, and validation. And positive relationships are regarded as crucial to one's well-being and the well-being of others. So actually, one of the world's longest scientific study of happiness by the Harvard Study of Adult Development had tracked thousands of people over a period of 85 years. And this study found that warm connections or good relationships was actually the strongest predictor of happiness and health in old age. So that's just to highlight how we really tend to value positive relationships and the impact that they can have on our happiness and our health. So those who are happiest were those who were not isolated. And a key focus of positive psychology, which is the science of human flourishing, is nurturing positive relationships. So the value of relationships is often highlighted in different well-being models. For instance, the PERMA model of well-being, we have relationships in there alongside other aspects such as positive emotions, engagement, meaning, and accomplishment. And then you have the 8 dimensions of wellness. You have the social aspect within that as well. And we have the SPIRE, which also has the relational aspect. And all other different types of well-being models tend to highlight relationships as being key, as being as vital as the others. And the positive relationships that we have also influence other aspects, including our emotional well-being, our sense of meaning, and our physical health, for instance. And the importance of positive relationships is also, globally it is accepted, and it's also reflected in African proverbs and sayings. And these short, wise sayings reflect the cultural values, the social norms, and the experiences of of a community, and they're passed down from generation to generation. There's a recent paper by Dr. Richard Appiah from Ghana that highlights the potential of integrating African proverbs into positive psychological interventions to actually use them to promote well-being in African populations. So in that paper, he talks about different proverbs, and one he gives is, "The eyes don't cry while the nose sits. The trouble of your kin is your own trouble." And that proverb emphasizes the need for us to empathize with others' challenges. There's another one, "A single broomstick cannot sweep the floor," which also highlights the importance of collaboration. And perhaps you've heard of the Zulu maxim, "Umuntu gumuntu gabantu," which describes Ubuntu, that sense of interconnectedness as "I am because we are," or also put differently, that a human being is a human being only through its relationships with other human beings. Now, growing up for me, I used to hear often from my parents, for instance, and I loosely translate it here, that when you do good, you have done it for yourself, which emphasizes that if I do an act of kindness, then it's not only benefiting someone else, it will also benefit me. And there's a sense of solidarity or community, even in sayings like, "It takes a whole village to build, to raise a child." And so I am curious, and perhaps you can type in the chat some sayings you've heard, whether growing up or, in your youth or even in your adult life, that highlight the value of relationships. So if you don't mind, maybe typing in the chat one or two that you hear, that sayings that tend to emphasize the value of relationships. Or, yeah, I would like to ask our moderator perhaps to read some of them out loud, or to maybe even share some. I will give you a few seconds to think and share.
Yeah, there's one from Wayego. Who says umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni, I think, being divided. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Evelyn says mtu ni watu.
Mm.
I know one that's a little off. It says kidole kimoja hakiui chawa.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Yeah. Then we have Chris, who says united we stand, divided we fall. And God, Nancy says, God, the creator of the universe, values the Trinity.
Mm. Yes.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Any more, just in case?
None at the moment. I'm sure people are thinking, and they will also, we can always come back to it. The clock works in unity, Nancy, again.
I don't know that one. That's interesting. Okay, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. If you get others, please keep sharing with us.
Yes, two are better than one. No man is an island. One finger cannot kill a louse. So many of us have, they're so big. I bet, yeah, we have several who have talked about the finger and the shower. Yes.
In the shower, yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing and for also reminding me of some of these sayings. That is great. Yes, so yeah, those things tend to highlight the importance of positive relationships. And I think it's such a great thing that they tend to be passed down from generation to generation. And do we keep hearing them as well to encourage us to build those relationships? So what exactly are some of the benefits of positive relationships? As noted earlier, relationships can have a big impact on happiness levels. So the top 10% of the happiest individuals in a study were defined by the quality of their social connections. which I found quite interesting as well. And relationships with family and close friends tend to be seen as vital sources of meaning, motivation, and purpose in life. So when people have been asked, okay, why do you actually value relationships? Some studies show that people tend to point out, oh, it's because I get my meaning, my sense of meaning from this, or my sense of purpose in life from this, or motivation. And then positive relationships have also been linked to health-related behaviors and lifestyle behaviors, for instance, our sleep, our exercise, our diet, and even treatment adherence. So for instance, receiving emotional or practical support would motivate one to engage in health-promoting behaviors. So if I'm surrounded by people who value exercise, chances are I will pick it up as well. And then you also have relationships being important for fostering resilience and shaping our views on stress. So resilience is about how we adapt and how we grow following challenges and hardships. And social connections provide access to support and resources to manage these stressful situations. And they sort of lessen the blow of stresses. So if you can imagine, when we go through dark days or we go through seasons that are quite traumatizing or quite difficult, the support from social connections can really help to keep us afloat and help us navigate those periods of crisis or trauma. Okay, so other benefits of positive relationships. They release oxytocin, so a neuropeptide in our brain, oxytocin, which stimulates the calm and connect response. That helps to build trust. It soothes our nervous system as well. Oxytocin also helps to buffer the stress response. As I mentioned, when we go through stress, our connections tend to help us cope with those stressful situations. And that's also thanks to the oxytocin that is released. Our positive relationships also activate mirror neurons in our brain with even micro moments of connectivity. So with mirror neurons, they tend to actually indicate that we are wired to connect. We are literally wired to connect with one another. So these mirror neurons in our brain are associated with empathy and can be activated even from just observing someone else experiencing feelings or sensations. To give an example, if you bump into someone, at times we can tell even before exchanging words if they're doing well or something is off because of those mirror neurons that we have. So if someone smiles or even frowns, it activates the micro muscles in our faces. We tend to really mirror what is going on with others and constantly resonate with them from that as well. Okay, other benefits for health: increased immunity, faster recovery from disease, and longevity as well. So those are just a few benefits. I'm sure maybe there's some that I haven't mentioned that you can think of. But those are just a few of the benefits of positive relationships. And now I have a question for you again. Who are friends? I would love to hear from you. Who would you say is a friend? So not naming them, you don't have to necessarily type in the chat, John is my friend. No, I'm saying, how would you describe a friend? A friend is, what are the words that come to your mind when you think of friends? So perhaps, yes, you can type again on the chat. And if Dr. Carol, if you don't mind reading some out loud that come, or sharing your own as well.
Muted. Okay, let's see. Wow, we still have quite a number of proverbs, but we'll You can check them out later. Maria says, one who has my back always. Nancy says, someone with a shared experience. McKenna, second family, confidence, and a safe space or safe place. Mary, a person who knows a lot about you and accepts you as you are without judging. Okay, someone SMDC who says someone who accepts you as you are and respect. One who is dependable from Ethioma. Sister Monica, friends stand by you at all costs. Jennifer says someone you trust. Susan says someone I can rely on for support. Vivian says companion. Jamie says trustworthy. Susan, stability in all ways. Abanas, who he or she cares in time of need and is trustworthy.
Okay. Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing. We all have somehow related ideas of what friendship are, what friends are, and we're defining them in different ways, even though there's still some common ground. I like hearing the trustworthiness, the confident, the second family, accepts us, non-judgmental. Yes, we all define friends in different ways, and I'll come back to this. Thank you so much for sharing. As I mentioned before, this webinar will zoom in more on friendships compared to other relationships. What you will find is that a lot of attention tends to focus on dyadic relationships, or rather, for instance, romantic couples or the mother-infant kind of relationship compared to those of friends. So who exactly are friends? And I found this definition. Just a second. Yes, by an evolutionary psychologist, Robin Dunbar, who describes friends as the people who share our lives in a way that is more than just the casual meeting of strangers. They are people who we make an effort to maintain contact with and to whom we feel an emotional bond. So that ties in with what I have heard from you as well. These are people who are just more than strangers. These are people who there's more than, a casual interaction. There's more of a bond, an emotional bond. And yes, even though, they are friends, they can still include members of our extended family or people not biologically related to us, or even a romantic partner. They can also be considered friends as well. And I have another question as well. And how many friends do you think we can have at a given time? So you can just put a number on the chat. How many friends do you think we can have at a given time? Or how many relationships is the human brain capable of maintaining at a given time? Out of curiosity, I'd love to hear your answers as well.
And then you says 2. Susan says 3. Mutual friend 2 to 3. So we are averaging 3, 3, 3, as many as my heart desires in different compartments. That's from Nancy. Sister Monica 2. Ethioma, as many as can keep you comfortable. Rosemary says 3. Mary 2. Winfred 2.
Okay. Very interesting.
Curious to see what the gentleman would say. I think
Oh, yes.
most of these are ladies. Well, Henry is here who said 3. All right, so we are averaging, Pamela.
Okay, about 2.5 to 3. Okay.
Yes. And then we have the extremes that say as many as qualifiable, as
Yes.
many as can keep me comfortable. Nancy said it's an interesting question. It really is. It just catches you and you're like, I've never really thought of that. Mado says 2.
I agree. It is an interesting question because the first time I heard it, I also had a similar answer. Now, until I learned something else, which was
Just so you know, someone who has done 20 was saying 20.
okay, okay. It's shot up a bit, yes.
Back to you, Pam.
Okay. So actually, again, coming back to thank you so much, for your responses. And thanks, Dr. Carol. Coming back to that evolutionary psychologist, Robin Dunbar, as well, because he has done some work on friendships, he says there is a limit to the number of friends we can manage at any one time. So the average size of personal social networks seems to be about 150 people. And you might wonder, oh, wow. For me, when I heard that, the first thing was, do I even know 150 people? I didn't know, it just felt a bit too many. But what he says is this include people we interact with face-to-face, online, via telephone, and at the very inner circle. Maybe this is where the answers were coming from. At the very inner circle, we have those we feel emotionally close to, those we can frequently contact, those that we feel we are willing to act altruistically towards. You can drop anything to be there for them and help them out. But that now, as we go further and further away from that inner circle, then we start having, the close friends, the best friends, the good friends, the friends. So it starts to increase. So now that you have the friends around 50 who you can, or 150 who you can invite for something, for an event, it doesn't mean you're emotionally close to each and every one of them. It doesn't mean you frequently call them or contact them. And then beyond the 150, according to Dunbar, you have now the acquaintances. Now, beyond that as well, you get to the known names, the 1,500 maybe. Those are the people you can put a name to, but you might not really know each other. And then beyond that, the 5,000, we have the known faces. Those ones, maybe you can't even tell their name. But I want to emphasize that this varies from people to people as well. So the 150 is not set in stone. It's not saying you have to have that number of people in your life. It's just giving an average that has been seen across different populations and samples. And then also remembering, because we have varying personality types, maybe, for instance, for the extroverts, it might be comfortable for them with 250, they can easily put in that circle. Whereas for introverts, because of different social or lifestyle strategies, it might be even way less. So just want to acknowledge that, also that there might be people who might look at this circle and find it very daunting or distressing, where you start to think, do I have these people in my life? And it's a very natural feeling. And it's also natural for friendships to ebb and flow. So you might have been close to someone at some point in your life, very, very close. And then as life happens, they might be moving towards the outer circle. But also at the same time, you might have lost touch with them, and then something reinvigorates that friendship and they move closer into the inner circle. I hope that makes sense. And so I like to think of it that, some relationships may not necessarily be dead. They might be just asleep, and they can be rekindled after being in contact again. So some people usually wonder, should they map out their friendships? Should they try to see, okay, my 5 people are this, my 15 are this, the 50 are this? And I guess it depends on the person, but perhaps a benefit of really paying attention or trying to think who your friends are may help you acknowledge the people you have in your life, or even become aware of these people and appreciate them a bit more. So in a sense, it can be a buffer of loneliness and help us cultivate an appreciation for the people that we do have in our lives, and help us become aware, like, oh yeah, there's this person that I can reach out to. Even though I know we haven't been in contact for so long, I have a feeling they would be there for me if we rekindled that relationship as well. Okay. And another thing about friendships is what Dr. Marisa Franco, another psychologist who is often referred to as the friendships expert because of her book Platonic, who describes the paradox of people. So on the one hand, we need people, and on the other hand, making connections with people can be quite scary. Scary not in the sense that they can physically hurt us or something like that, but scary in the sense that making connections with people comes with the risks of rejection, being vulnerable, getting hurt, or even not being as connected as we would hope to be. So therefore, there's this paradox because we want to be socially connected to others, but at the same time, we feel cautious to step out and do so. Okay, maybe some people relate to that. Maybe for others, it's not they don't have such a paradox happening as well. But it leads me to a fairly common experience, which is loneliness. So despite the value of positive relationships and these social connections, loneliness tends to be a very real and a raw experience for many people. It is often talked about with adolescents and the youth in this digital age, or with much older adults. However, loneliness is quite a widespread experience. And I'll touch on a bit about loneliness, just because it is more common than we think, and also not reserved for a special few. There tends to be a misleading assumption that people's social needs are satisfied by having a loving partner and kids and a very busy life, and but it has more to do with feeling comfortable around people, feeling like yourself, feeling seen. And we also tend to need a variety of social interactions. Loneliness is also more consequential than we assume. It impacts our health, increased risk of dementia, heart disease, depression, and anxiety, fragmented sleep as well. And it also impacts how we show up in other people's lives as well. And loneliness signals to our minds that it needs connection, that something is missing in your social and emotional life. So just in the same sense that your stomach growls when you're feeling hungry, so it's the same with the feeling of loneliness, where it signals to you that we're looking for some connection. And the experience of loneliness was common for many during the pandemic. But it is still a very common experience for people then and now as well. There's usually a lot of stigma around loneliness, whereby people believe they're not likable or that they are flawed. But again, it is a very common experience, and that's not the case. It's not about whether one is likable or whether they have flaws as such. And people are living farther and farther away, and transitions happen. So whether it's moving from one job to another or moving to a different neighborhood or city, from one place of worship to another, we all go through different phases in our lives that can trigger feelings of loneliness at some point. Now, the former Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek Murthy, in his book, Together, details 3 types of loneliness. There is intimate loneliness, which is feeling as though you're lacking a close confidant. Then there is relational loneliness, experiencing a lack of friendships, people you can meet up with or do things with. And then there is collective loneliness, which is lacking a sense of community or benefit that comes with this shared interest or affiliation with a common group of people. Okay, so there can be these 3 different types of loneliness that one can experience, and we may experience them at different periods of our lives. And now some common causes of loneliness. There's the absence of significant connections. So the lack of meaningful connections with other people. So we may have several acquaintances or social media friends, but few deep, authentic connections. So we lack people that we can truly be ourselves with. And then we might have unrealistic expectations and comparisons. So comparisons of others' lives on social media can leave us feeling quite inadequate or isolated, where we're measuring our lives against maybe an idealized version of what we think our lives should be. And then there's unfulfilled emotional needs. So these unmet needs, not feeling seen, heard, or understood, or having these unmet needs of reciprocity, empathy, or understanding. So you're looking for it with other people and not having it reciprocated as well. And it could also loneliness could also indicate other underlying mental health issues, maybe such as depression or anxiety. And in this case, it would also be good to seek professional help. Okay. And there are common obstacles that come in the way of building relationships. Firstly, we tend to want, let's say, friendships to just fall into our lives organically. Studies show that people who believe friendships happen by luck or waiting for friendships to come to us actually end up lonelier than the people who believe that friendships happen by deliberate action. So we tend to assume a lot that maybe friendships will happen just like when we were children or in high school. But back then, the difference was those were mostly these shared experiences where we ate together, we played together, we read together, and it was natural to build relationships or friendships because of how much time we spent together. Then there is time famine. That's another obstacle where we're feeling busier than ever, feeling as though we don't have any time to spare. So personally, I tend to overestimate, for instance, how long it will take to check on someone or respond to messages. I'm guilty of waiting for the right time. And then time goes and you find you haven't actually checked on someone or connected with them. And then there is the liking gap bias, where there's a disparity between how much a person believes that other people like them. So there's that disparity that we have going on at times that we don't understand for sure, or we underestimate the degree to which people that we interact with will like us as well. So, but people tend to like us more and enjoy our company more than we think they do. And that's a common bias. So sometimes sometimes we get in our own way, where we may interact with people, but we're stopping ourselves, and perhaps it is best not to overthink it and actually start assuming that people will like us and accept us. Okay, another obstacle is avoidance behaviors. At times we engage in avoidance behaviors to avoid feeling uncomfortable. It can be beneficial in the short term to feel better in the moment because we're avoiding or ignoring something, but in the long term, it can be actually damaging. And there are two types I would like to mention: overt avoidance. For instance, you are invited to something, but you don't attend because you're nervous about putting yourself out there. And then there is subtle or covert avoidance. Maybe we wear headphones. We've been invited, we go, but then we end up maybe wearing headphones to avoid small talk. I guess headphones are like the universal signal of don't talk to me. Or we avoid speaking to people, we avoid engaging with people when we're out there. So this is where you're invited and, you spend your time with the host's pet instead of engaging with other people. So perhaps being on the lookout for our safety behaviors or behaviors of self-protection, like even being on our phones, because they can end up sending a signal that we're not interested or enthusiastic about building connections with other people. But taking the first step to talk to others may help others feel more comfortable too. Okay. I hope that is clear. And where can we begin? Okay. I've spoken about the importance of relationships and the prevalence of loneliness and the obstacles that we tend to have to navigate to be able to build connections. But where can we actually begin? Well, firstly, I would like to touch on mindfulness because it is a powerful tool when loneliness creeps in or when feeling disconnected from others. For instance, Dr. Caro just led us through a mindfulness activity at the beginning, and it's recommended to practice mindfulness because it can help us ground ourselves in the present moment and reconnect with our surroundings. And it can be practiced in everyday activities. So because it's helping us focus on the here and the now, rather than getting lost in regrets about the past or the worries about the future. So training or being conscious to taking a moment to pause, to focus on our breath, to inhale deeply, to exhale, noticing how our body feels, what we see, what we hear, what we touch. Those can help ground us when we're feeling lonely or when we're feeling disconnected. And then there is self-compassion, treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding as we would offer a friend. So when we're lonely, or when we're feeling disconnected, our minds can spiral into negative self-talk. So you can end up thinking, I am not good enough. No one understands me. I will always feel this way. And those can reinforce a sense of disconnection, and they can make it harder for us to reach out to other people. So self-compassion can help reshape our relationship with ourselves. What I mean by this is it can help us recognize, when I'm feeling lonely, when I'm feeling disconnected, that it doesn't mean that something is wrong with me. And in this, I can gently challenge any critical or harsh thought that comes to my mind. So instead of I am always alone, I can reframe it to say, okay, I'm feeling lonely right now, and that's okay. It does not define me. So Remember, self-compassion, it's the same way you would be kind to someone else, but now you're also offering it to yourself as well. Okay, then there is developing self-awareness of our emotional needs. And this is where we can look at things such as, what do we value in our existing relationships? Do we value someone we can trust? Do we value support? Do we value encouragement? What is it that we actually value about the relationships that we have? With that one person, with those 20 people, whatever it is, what do we actually value? Then what are our boundaries and expectations as well? What are those things that you can't cross, that you're in control of? What do you expect of other people? And then what aspects are lacking, or what would you like to see more of? Just being cognizant or aware of this can help you, assess your friendships as well. And in what ways do you communicate your needs to other people? Do you actually express that, oh, actually at this time, I would like a bit more, support. I'd like some encouragement. I'm going through some doubt. I'm going through a difficult time. How do we actually communicate our needs? Do we communicate them to other people? So it's also remembering that different relationships offer us different things. We will not experience the same level of emotional closeness with every friend. And remembering how you defined who a friend is. So maybe as someone you can trust, someone who is supportive. Being aware of how we describe our friendships can help us become attuned to what we value and what we desire to see more of. Okay. Then there is seeking out new connections with shared interests. It gives us a common ground to build on and foster deep bonds with others. So things like exploring activities with groups that align with your interests. And it can feel intimidating, to step out of your comfort zone, but it may be worth it to do so. So it might be from book clubs, sports, religious activities, volunteering, participating in an online community, focusing on something that you enjoy. But also being aware that relationships don't have to be instantaneous. Allow them to grow gradually and naturally. So for new relationships, doing something we care about alongside other people, the more we start to see these familiar faces, the more people become familiar, the more comfortable we tend to become. And that familiarity gives way to building connections. So don't worry when you find yourself, you've started this new activity and you still haven't made friends in the first 2 occasions that you've gone and started this new activity. Give it time. Things become more familiar and gradual, and people open up more and more after that. And oh yes, I want to highlight the power of compliments. The simple act of complimenting actually weighs a lot more than we can imagine. Compliments can be quite powerful, but there is a tendency to notice, but not verbalize it. These researchers, Zhao and Epley, spoke about underestimating the positive impact of compliments, which ends up creating a barrier to expressing them. So we underestimate how nice someone else will feel when they receive a compliment or hear some words of gratitude or share a smile. We tend to assume people are aware of their good traits. But it's not just about sharing a fact, it's about building relationships, okay? You're not just stating facts to them, you're a kind person, you're a good person, yeah, so there is way more than that. And then another thing that holds us back is under sociality, where we underestimate the happiness benefits that come from this social interaction. Then there's performance anxiety. Maybe, I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you want to say something to someone, you want to compliment them, but then you start to feel, "Oh, maybe it will be awkward, maybe I won't articulate it well, maybe they've heard it too many times, what's the point of sharing it with them?" But what's been found is that the power of compliments does not degrade over time. So give it a shot another time. I think things to note when giving compliments is make sure perhaps that they are tailor-made. So for that person. So the compliments are tailor-made, they are unmotivated, they are sincere, and genuine observations. So not anything creepy or annoying that can be misunderstood. So where it feels appropriate. I think maybe some of you can relate, there's always the wanting to wait for the right time, or the timing bias, where we are biased in our perception of time. So we end up putting off this happiness-inducing actions because we think we will remember to do it later. I will do it on Saturday, and then, pushing it back instead of doing it in the moment. So this was just to highlight that compliments have actually been found to be quite powerful in relationships. And how can we deepen our relationships? So when we are vulnerable, people actually tend to perceive us way more positively than we think they do. This is known as the beautiful mess effect. So friends view our messiness as far more beautiful than we assume. However, it can be hard to admit feeling vulnerable. We tend to think we are pushing people away, but it actually conveys that we trust them, that we are genuine, that we are honest. And of course, talking about, it not on the first instance that you meet someone in a matatu somewhere that you start sharing your, deepest stuff. I'm talking about when you're trying to deepen your current relationships with people. And it could be simply, if you struggle with being vulnerable to someone else, it could simply be sharing that you've been feeling disconnected. So opening up, revealing our inner selves, and sharing things that we often keep hidden. We don't have to be perfect people to make friends. And then also another thing we can do is perhaps redirecting attention to activities that foster connection. As mentioned before, looking out for those activities, whether it's going out for a walk together, doing a project together, things like that. And then there is listening, being actively present, giving someone the full attention when they speak, making them feel valued, and that creates a bond over time. So we also have taking the initiative. So initiating, making the first move, reaching out, not waiting for other people to check in and ask how I am or whether we can meet up. That indicates that you value the relationship as well. Then there is adopting the growth mindset. So looking for opportunities to develop the relationship. So viewing the relationship as not just fixed, but something that can actually grow, and looking out for ways to deepen those connections as well. It could also indicate, it could also be asking people for feedback as well, in terms of how they see you as a friend and what they would like to see more of, and having a discussion around that as well. Okay. A key aspect of positive relationships is not only going through the bumps of life together, but also the good times. And at times we just want to share good news with our friends. And there are different ways in which people can respond to our news. So I want you, okay, even before I show you this, I want you to picture a scenario where you go to your friend with some good news. And maybe the news is perhaps that, I've finally been able to send in that job application for the position that I was eyeing for and you knew about, and I told you that I'm going to apply, and now I've finally applied. And you're feeling good about it. Imagine you're feeling good about it. You've gone to this person, you've told them that, and there are different ways that one can respond. There's a passive destructive response where they might overlook the positive event and then they just ask you, okay, did you buy groceries? Completely ignoring what you just said. Then there's a passive constructive response, which ends up being dismissive and a conversation killer, sorry. So it does not acknowledge the other person's positive emotions. It just stops there like, okay, nice. And that's it. And then you have the active destructive response, which, well, this one can be quite negative and ends up taking away the joy of the moment. So I've applied for that job and perhaps someone responds, in this economy, I'm sure thousands of people applied for the same job. I'm sure chances of getting it are quite slim. As you can see with that one, it completely just takes away the joy of that moment. And then there's an active constructive response, which is enthusiastically responding in a supportive manner when one shares a positive experience. For instance, oh, that's great. Well done for putting in the effort. I hope you get a positive response soon. And yeah, with active constructive responding, that can help build trust and make a relationship stronger. So it acknowledges the other person's positive emotions, and then perhaps you can ask questions that extends the other person's feelings, like, oh, wow, you did apply for this job, and how are you feeling now? Do you feel like a sense of relief that you've applied? How was it for you to finally do it? What's going on with you? What are you feeling? Maintaining eye contact. So they're sharing this good news, whatever good news it is, making sure that you are engaging, perhaps not being on your phone at that moment. And smiling as well indicates empathy. And then there are other practices like gratitude, which has really been shown to strengthen bonds between people. And highly researched within positive psychology. So when we practice gratitude, we're more likely to become connected to others. We train our minds to be aware of the positive things that are happening, the positive experiences, in as much as we also experience negative experiences. Gratitude helps us retrain our minds to also be aware of the positive things that are happening. And so you could also start looking into maybe writing down 3 good things you're grateful for that happened during the day and why you're grateful for them. And perhaps even extend it into, I'm grateful for this person because of this and because of that, reawakening and remembering what you're grateful for when it comes to the connections that you do have. Or even a gratitude letter or visit. So this can also be a bit daunting. You might feel, oh, I don't want to just deliver a letter. Go with what works for you, but you can write it and maybe send it as a message or an email, whatever might work for you. Okay. And then there's forgiveness, because forgiveness is not easy. Forgiving a transgression is not always easy. Relationships have their ups and downs and often require forgiveness. And for friendships that are long lasting, more often than not, we make mistakes here and there. So it's not about condoning or excusing or forgetting wrongdoing, but it's actually about letting go of resentment. or forsaking the right to get even. So with forgiveness, it's also remembering that within relationships, people will not be perfect, and we will always make mistakes here and there. And so it's in practicing forgiveness that we can continue to build relationships with others. Then there's the gift of time. It could be contacting or meeting people we care about. So regardless of financial circumstances, it could be just checking in on someone else. Or one can also incorporate their strengths, for instance, the strength of kindness, to help someone who might be moving, maybe houses or something like that. Then there is compassionate acts. We tend to underestimate the magnitude of compassion and what an act of compassion can do. And compassion not only generates connection and well-being within us, but also we are much happier when we give than when we receive. Compassion is also contagious. There's a psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, who talks about elevation. When we see someone else helping someone, we feel that elevation, a warm, fuzzy feeling, which motivates us to go and help someone else. And we are much happier when we spend on others than on ourselves. So happiness from self-centered behavior tends to be self-centered behavior tends to be quite unstable than selfless behavior. Selfless behavior, that happiness tends to be more enduring. So for instance, if I buy myself something, that happiness will wear off faster than the happiness from buying my friend something, for instance. Okay, so in summary, there are varied benefits of positive relationships for our well-being and the well-being of others. Experiencing loneliness or disconnection is a common experience, and we can intentionally work on cultivating positive relationships. So for instance, through practicing mindfulness, self-compassion, active constructive responding, compassionate acts, and the others as well. So I'd like to thank you for your time. Those are my details. I've included the references in case you need to look them up as well. And I'll share these slides with Dr. Carol as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you very much. That was very well delivered and very practical in terms of just the takeouts that we can have as we are seeking to cultivate positive relationships. So I'm going to open this up for more active conversation and engaging conversation from the chat. Please let us know how you have experienced this session and also what questions you may have. I think Eda at some point was asking, being alone and lonely are very different. Better to be alone than where you don't belong. Okay, and then she has toxic there. So as we are waiting for more feedback, any questions you may have, maybe you can comment on that, Pam.
Oh yes, I do totally agree with that. Those 2 points, because there's being alone is not the same as being lonely. So you can be in a crowd of people and feel totally alone. You can move to a different place that is filled with people and still feel so lonely. So that is very true. And I think the second part of that was it's better to be alone than to be in relationships with toxic people. I suppose that makes a lot of sense. Those can be quite damaging. And I'm sure in this webinar, it's very hard to unpack, toxicity within relationships and the different dynamics that can be. But I do resonate with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, quite a lot of saying thank you, gratitude, and just you can take time to read through. And I also just wanted to say what one of the things that stood out for me, several things that stood out for me. One, that there's such a thing called a liking gap. I have not come across that, that people actually tend to like us more than we think. So we underestimate our likability, and that becomes the barrier in cultivating positive relationships. The other thing that stood out for me is again, underestimating the positive impact of compliments and being very intentional about compliments, and that people actually care more about our warmth and genuineness than performance, you know.
Yes.
I also like the beautiful mess concept. So just
Yeah.
very, very clear. Thank you so much for giving us such clear takeouts, you know. John says, great
Dr.
conversation. Yes, Munira?
I have two things to say.
Yes.
One is on appreciation. It's wonderful to appreciate people to develop positive relationships, because appreciation is everybody's dominant self-interest motive. Okay. And the other thing is, she talked about gift of time. Emotional contact, email contact is no substitute for physical contact. Yeah, because today, when you try through emails, people are living long distances, families are far off. So you cannot just keep email contact. You have to physically see them to be able to feel good. So these are two things I wanted to say.
Yeah,
thank you for that. I totally agree. In presence cannot, online does not, cannot fully be the same as, face to face.
It's not a substitute. It's not
exactly.
a substitute.
Yes.
For
It's
a
not
human contact.
Yes. And unfortunately, it's not always the case that we are in the same places with the people we deeply care about. So on the one hand, yes, don't substitute, in presence with emails or social media and stuff like that. But I think there is also the tendency to let them fade because we're far away and we forget to check on them even just online. So yes, I do agree with that. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Pam. Quite a number of conversations going on. So John says, great conversation. Pam appreciated it. What's your take when intense conflict is being solved in one line communication? I mean, lack of empathy to other concerned parties and isolation probably induced. Did you understand the question?
I'm not so sure.
Yeah. What's your take when intense conflict is being solved in one line communication? I mean, lack of empathy to other concerned parties and isolation probably induced.
If I understand, there is a concern with one party who might be pushing other people away with their lack of empathy, or their communication skills might be lacking. And I suppose in that, two things I would say would be perhaps, yes, trying to have a conversation between them. I know it's saying like communication might be lacking, but having that in presence conversation to really articulate that I do value this friendship, but there are some things that are hindering this friendship from actually growing or being all that it could be. Something is amiss over here. and we would like to resolve that, starting on a ground of we're trying to save something, we're trying to, be on the same page. And I do understand that, yes, sometimes there is some distance needed for reflection. There's some distance needed to show that lines or boundaries or expectations are being crossed. And I guess in that case, perhaps also speaking out the concerns maybe with the mental health professional or a therapist, someone who can help you see what is the best way to communicate with this person who might be pushing other people away. How do we? Yes. And I guess one more thing to add to that is I would say that remembering that people are going through different things and they might not see how what they're going through is coming out in how they respond to other people. So there's an aspect of maybe taking a moment to reflect. Could it be something else that I shouldn't personally take as, it's me being targeted, or yes. I don't know if that fully answers, but I would, yes, also if anyone else has a clearer answer, I would love to see. Yeah, but thank you for the question. Yeah.
I think you've clarified, and especially in terms of just being able to step back and see what is going on with me, and also how can I get professional help in trying to communicate to this person. There's someone who had raised their hand for a while and it's down now. So just if you're there, there was no name, it was a gadget name. So if you're there and you would like to unmute and speak, please go ahead and do that. But there is, yes.
Sorry. Thank you, Pam, for such a great presentation. You've actually answered a part of the question that I wanted to ask, because my question was two-part. How do you resolve conflict with a quote-unquote a toxic friend? And how can you be able to be there for a friend who is going through a tough time, but they are not willing to open up? There's a measure you can have for someone in terms of grace and giving them time, but how can you be able to not allow them be stuck in that sad place and deep that place? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think we probably can all resonate where it's so difficult at times when you see someone is going through something and you don't want them to be stuck in that phase, and that feeling at times of helplessness that can come with friendships as well. How are we there for others? I think at times maybe when we ask people what do they need from us, they might be, some people might tell you outright, this is what I need. I need someone to listen. I need someone I can just vent with and not give me advice. So some people might be able to articulate that, but I think there's also sometimes even for us, we might get asked, how can I be there? How can I help? And in those moments, we are not entirely sure. So at times we can offer suggestions. Do you need me to speak to you? Do you need me to distract you by taking you somewhere out of this situation? Do you need us to just sit and be there? It might, just offering those different aspects. That's what I would suggest. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I think we can start winding down. There's a comment here from McKenna. I appreciate that the psychology profession is now focusing on friendships. The definition of friendship shared included the effort to maintain and navigate friendships. With the demands of these times that we live in, it seems that there's a current view that friendships take a backseat to other demands on our time, energy, etc. And navigating individual differences and conflict resolution within friendship seems to be key as well. Very, very well summarized here, McKenna. And I think it also alludes or feeds into the two questions that we have had about the intentionality. Yes, anything you would like to add, Pam? I think everything else here is just saying thank you, excellent. There's Andenyi here who says, how does a sense of belonging, and this will be the last one so that we can also put a cap. How does a sense of belonging influence overall well-being and longevity?
Okay. I'd like to answer that in terms of, well, let's start with longevity. Maybe it might not be able to unpack and say that relationships influence longevity. You will live a longer life with this certain number of this quality friendships. But in terms of, how do I put it? I would say maybe one thing that in terms of our sense of resilience, being able to cope with adversity. So that is very big in terms of our overall well-being, how we are able to cope. These friendships help to lift us up and support us, whether it's emotionally or practically. There's the health-related behaviors as well, where we might receive encouragement from people to stick to maybe a path that is actually good for our well-being and our own health. So because it's been shown that we tend to adhere to health-related behaviors from our friendships. And I think, yes, because right now there's a lot of research, neuroscience research showing the connections that we have with people actually have an influence on our brain systems. I guess that is still kind of fairly new research within the last few decades, that they're trying to still unravel and see why are they still super important. So yeah, that's what I can give for now. If that makes sense. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. And I know there's so many other questions. Probably you could just still share the last slide with your contacts because someone is asking for that. And just to let you know that we are live streaming on YouTube, Positive Psychology Association of Kenya YouTube. Therefore, you will get this recording there after that. You can access it there. Usually we don't share slides and notes for these sessions, but you can always revisit the conversation on YouTube. And as we wind down, again, thanking you very much, Pamela, for taking your time, for researching, for going deep into just, really taking your time to give us such an excellent presentation that also was very informative with practical takeouts. And we wish you the best as you keep going with your research, really looking forward to seeing the results because we need those results. To local evidence. We need them as much as possible. Thank you everyone for engaging today. 72 of us, we remained consistent throughout. Thanks for not falling off and just continuing to engage. Very quickly, just reminding us, character coaches training, level 3 is coming up on 24th to 26th of April. Character coaches training, 24th to 26th of April. And then we also have the workplace well-being coach coming up May 3rd, May 10th, and May 17th. Those are 3 Saturdays, full days. Check in. If you keep checking on our social media, we will also be sending out more information. And also you have our office line. You can also call in and just find out more information about that. But we are sending out communication. Thank you all. Have a good evening, everyone. And you can unmute, you can turn on your camera, you can leave at your pleasure. Now the rest of us, as we wind down and finish this session, it's already 7 o'clock. Again, thank you very much, Pamela.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Carol.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
Great job, Pam.
Thanks.
Well done.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Yes, it was. It really was.
Thank you.
All right, we're giving it a minute, then we will end the session. Because we like this face-to-face as well, just that connection. So
Thank you, Carol.
nice to see your faces. Thanks, Sister Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. Thank
All
you,
right.
Pam.
It's good to
Thank
see
you.
you, Vivian. Bye, everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Bye. Please check us out on YouTube if you want a recording of this. Have a good evening, everyone. God bless. And we